we are assuming to be streaming. Okay, it is 9 o'clock on the Eastern Coast, and we're recording. I think we're streaming. I'll check on that later. But we are assuming that all systems are go, and we will start a countdown in just a moment to Studio 20. Seldom used, but nonetheless a good one. Let's start that countdown now. Well, good evening. Welcome to pjnet.tv and welcome to Studio 20. We've only used this one time before. I am so glad to have so many resources to make this presentation everything that it can be, because it will be special. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of the talking tonight. We are experiencing some rain outside here in Florida, and we are in a tin roof facility. So it is the first Tuesday of the month, and I always look forward to that. And you should too, because that is the night reserved for Ben Cooper, who is also going to talk about contemporary topics such as, well, climate change and their effect on everything else. And I hear the rain is really picking up outside. Ben, good to see you on the big screen television. And you alluded to, well, go ahead. I'm going to turn this mic down because it's really not thundering, but it's loud out there.
Coach, it's good to be here. I know what that's like, and we talked before we came on air about being in St. Lucia. And when you have a metal roof in a third world country, when it rains really heavy, church pretty much just gets stopped because you can't even hear yourself think. It gets so loud, and now you just wait. The Caribbean national anthem is no problem, man. You just Jamaica, on time is an hour late, and they don't care. I'm going to move a little bit. I'm going to stand up for the benefit of your associate producer and show her the shirt that I'm wearing.
What's your plan?
And it says, "What's your plan?" Now, Barbara will know what that is, and hopefully a lot of other people. I've been enjoying Kirk Cameron's 100-day programming.
I wanted to. Yeah, Ben, I know that you have things you want to talk about, but before we leave, share with us how that's inspiring you and what makes it so special to you that you share it and all that. It's a great I've never seen one, but okay, carry on.
If you take some of the things that Doug was talking with you last night about our founding fathers, Kirk Cameron has a campfire in his backyard. Sometimes he's in somebody else's backyard when he's away. But just as a president has the first 100 days and has a plan, we need to have a plan as Christians in taking back our country. And he's sharing some of the things from our founding fathers. I was listening before I logged on with you, but he's sharing some things of how our nation was founded based on godly principles and how far away we've removed from that. And he's bringing in biblical principles to it. So it's a 20-minute message with Kirk giving some of his own personal testimony and some things about him and being tough to be a Christian in Hollywood today, even more so. But when he was 19 and he accepted Jesus as Lord, he said it was really hard for him. But he's probably famous in the Christian world for the Left Behind movie series, and he is just encouraging. He is lighting a fire. There's 15 to 20,000, sometimes 23,000 people logging in each night. So it's encouraging to me. And he's taking history from the United States, and he's taking biblical history as well, bringing them both together and sharing. But tonight, to jump into tonight, I just heard this week, somebody said, you can tell spring is just right around the corner. And up here in the northern part of the United States, we have all these little signs. And I got a few things that I wrote down that I've written just as a reminder. When our daylight gets longer and longer, we know that spring is just around the corner. We talked about St. Lucia, and the sun rises at 4:30 in the morning. It sets at 6 o'clock at night. But you're so close to the equator, there isn't that change. It's just it's just constant because that's the way that is based on being so close to that equator. But I personally look for more longer daylight hours so I can be outside and do stuff more rather than being each day after the winter solstice. It gets longer and longer until we hit June, and then it reverses and goes back. So I like the longer days, but I love spring. Spring's probably my favorite season. I like living in a area of the country where I get to experience all four seasons. Sometimes more dramatic. People think Snowmageddon was terrible, but that really, in the long haul, was an average. We had an average winter. Last year was so warm that we got accustomed to it. But I remember, uphill both ways, snowdrifts, barefoot, all those things we hear from our grandparents. But warmer weather, I like it. We're in that weather right now that gets me sick with sore throats, strep throats, and all that kind of stuff because of it's 40 to 50 degrees in the daytime, and it gets below freezing. Right now, we're in prime maple sap collecting era. That's what Somerset County, Pennsylvania, is the maple capital of Pennsylvania. And so some years I tap maple trees, some years I don't. But what's really nice as a beekeeper, my bees will go and get nectar and pollen from the maple trees. So when I see that maple tap start flowing and trees will crack because of the winter, we had high winds yesterday, those maple trees will crack and they will seep maple syrup or sugar water, as we call it up here, right out of the cracks. And I've taken pictures of my bees collecting maple sap water right from the maple tree because it's got sugar in it. It's just not boiled down like it needs to be. So we're deep into that. We start seeing signs of people. It's nice whenever you start seeing all the sugar camps and they're boiling it down. The Amish, not too far from us, they have lots of little sugar camps, and you'll see big racks and stacks of wood to heat the pan underneath. So that's a sign of springtime coming. The grass gets greener up here. It's dead, and a lot of it is just in a dormant stage. Most of it, some of it still will grow, but another sign of spring and a turning of the seasons is greener grass. The trees start budding. I bought for my wife for an anniversary present a magnolia bush, and it can bloom twice sometimes in the year, in the spring and in the fall. And the blooms are starting to push out on that. Other things that I watch for as a beekeeper. Well, one of the true signs for me personally is when I start seeing an overload of emails and phone calls directly to me, I know it's spring.
Okay.
Because
Is your car's extended warranty up for renewal at that time? Is that
no, these are legitimate
Legit.
phone calls and email from beekeepers that I have taught or mentor, and they are calling asking, what can I do? I lost my hive. I need to get more bees, or this is going on. And this will take place. This will keep me busy through probably the end of May. I will get at least one phone call or email a day or a Facebook message. Hey, can you give me some advice? Having over 200 people take my beekeeping class, and that's going to start here in March 22nd on Monday nights. I will be back into teaching face-to-face in class, and I love doing that and love seeing new people discover the wonder and the amazement of keeping bees. But that's for me, because not everybody's a beekeeper or bee mentor or an instructor. But when the phone starts ringing and the emails start happening asking about bees, I know spring is right around the corner because people are waiting. But one of the main things around here in the north is when someone sees that first robin in their yard. And when they see that, I put on Facebook as a commercial for this, a nice big robin in a lush green yard, and you can watch them. They'll bob around, they'll turn their head from side to side. They're actually listening for the earthworms underneath them, and they will probe the ground. And so a common miscommon thought is that when you see the robins come back from migration, that spring's right around the corner, that they're bringing the warm weather in the spring. They know something. Truth be told, most of the robins, around 80% stay right here in our local region. They just they flock together and they hang out deep in the woods, because most people, if you took a quiz, one of those game show quizzes, earthworms aren't the primary diet of a robin. It's fruit and berries. There aren't any fruit and berries unless they're hanging on wild grapevines and in forests where we don't see the robins. And so only about 10-15% will even migrate and go south. But we see flocks of them fill in the yard because they're coming out of the deep woods. The area that I am in is about, the county that I'm really close to in Maryland is 72% wooded out of the entire county. So there's lots of deep woods for those robins to hide in. And when they show up, then my neighbor just said the other day, I saw a robin. So that means spring's right around the corner. I think that's still when we had 6 inches of snow on the ground. But seeing those robins is a visual sign that they're coming out of the woods, and they're starting to single out, and then they'll start the nest building, and then you'll find those blue eggs, and they'll be in the corner of your house. I've seen them on a disabled vehicle. Robins lay eggs and build a nest right on the bumper of a vehicle. We look for these signs. And so as I was thinking about that, there's a lot of other signs that we need to be looking for because they're there. Doug talked about them last night, and I'm sure that there's other. Jake McCandless.
McCandless.
Jake talks about that in his prophetic books and in his lessons too about these signs. So there's climate change happening right now. Storms in Texas, warm winters up here, and then it switches. We got cold winters, and there's climate change. But in the book of Revelation, there's climate change as well. There's going to be changes that we will visually be able to see. And I think we're starting to get close to some of those larger changes that we see. Men saying they're just as important as Christ or more than what Christ is, saying that bringing in their own message. Matthew 24 lines up with Revelation a lot, that, they substitute themselves. Oh, this person is better than Christ because they're going to bring everything together, socialism, whatever form of government, or peace, and promise peace, but they never deliver. We hear of wars and rumors of war in Scripture, and it seems like in my lifetime we either have been in a war or dancing close to the edge. President Trump, I think he did an excellent job with North Korea, and keeping that. It could have been something very volatile, but he handled that well. But Russia's always been a threat, and back in the 70s in the Cold War. But that's found also in Matthew 24, where we hear of rumors of war. And then I like in Luke 21, where it talks about, you'll know when the end times are coming whenever the fig tree is blooming. And that's changed. That's going from summer or spring into summer in Israel, in the Middle East. But there's a time frame there, and we start to see clues of seasonal changes. But I think in spiritual realms, we are seeing the changes take place. People are more selfish every day. The world, like I like to look for longer days of sunlight, I think the world is getting darker and darker. And it's happening before us. When you look at Luke 21:28, it says, when you see these things start happening, look up. Look up. Those of us from a more Baptist standpoint will say the next thing on the agenda is the rapture. And look up, because the second coming of Christ is at hand. It's going to happen. Your redemption is really close. And so as we see these things, we might struggle inside. Why, God, are you allowing them to happen? They're happening just as they're supposed to happen, because they've been foretold in Scripture. It doesn't stop us to throw up our hands and say we can't do anything. It's still our job to preach the word and share Christ with everyone we can. That's what PJNet is here, is just letting people share the love of Christ and how that's flowed through their own personal lives and share. And we might end up early, give you a chance to talk, but I really like this song that I talked to Barbara and asked if she could cue it up. And I want to give Barb kudos, because those people that aren't in the chat room miss out on some really good programming that happens in between the speakers. There's some really good songs, and sometimes it breaks to a news break, and Barb is pretty handy. She'll listen to what somebody's talking about, and the very next song will be right on target. But Ivan Parker did this song called The Midnight Cry that talks about we need to be looking and being ready. And it's probably one of my favorite songs of looking towards end times without all the destruction and the disaster. But we as believers really need to be looking at where our eternal home is. We're just sojourners and pilgrims on this journey called life, until we have our forever home with Christ. So thoughts, comments that you have?
Got to turn the mic on so you can hear the rain roaring outside, and I'll just keep the mic turned down and stay close to it, so that'll minimize that. Ben will not, of course. He will compliment everybody but himself, and that's a gentleman of him. But I second what you say, Ben. You all don't realize just how involved Barbara is in the programming here at pjnet.tv. She's never on the screen, but I promise you that anyway, just thank you, Barbara. She is a blessing. She has been a faithful part of PJNet from the very first episode. I have missed more episodes than she has. Literally, okay? Before we go on the air, I have a chance to, kind of chat with whoever our guest is in the green room, and Ben always has a prayer before we go on the air, and I want to paraphrase part of that prayer to sort of give you a peek into his heart. It went something like this: Lord, may they not hear and see me, and may they not hear and see Dell upcoming at the beginning, next segment at the bottom of the hour, but Lord, may they hear your message. Because we talk about the seasons, the creation, and things like that, but what we're really talking about is a creator God. We are simply observing his handiwork and marveling. I marvel at God's handiwork. It's absolutely proof, not only of the existence of God, but of his love. When you look at the varieties of birds, for example, the wood duck is one of my favorite, the male. The coloring, it is God. It's like, God, you didn't have to do that. He could have just, there, duck. No, he makes this beautiful thing. Also, Ben, I wanted to fact check. I saw a post, and I'm sorry I don't have it handy, and I'll probably do a terrible job of paraphrasing it, but it was urging people with the approach of spring not to begin tilling the ground too early until the ground temperature has been above 50 degrees for a period of time, because pollinating. Do you have any knowledge of the wisdom of waiting until the soil temperature is above 50? Have you ever heard any of that?
Well, it all depends on what you're wanting to plant. Tilling it too early, some people will actually fall till. They'll till in the fall and it lays fallow all winter long. If you have rainstorms like you're having right now and you live on a slope, all your good topsoil is going to end up downstream. So most of the farmers that I know, you make hay when the sun's shining, not when it's raining. So if you've got a warm day in ahead of schedule, getting that crop in is important. So you got to do what you got to do. You got a lot of different options: no-till and chisel plowing and moldboard. So there's a lot of variety. So it depends on the crop, in my opinion, and what you want to do with it.
Ben, do you remember the other night, or perhaps you all remember the other night, we did a special thing on Friday night to bring some of the pastors on board that are reaching out to the community, opening their churches. And one pastor, the one that was really the tip of the spear, and I forget his name, I don't take notes, sorry guys, but he and I kind of bonded. And he came on the program and told the story of how he was ministering under the bridge to the homeless people, inviting them to the church, and encountered this man called Wolf, that goes by Wolf. Do you remember that, Ben? You're not? Okay. Well, Wolf received Jesus as his Lord and Savior today.
Today,
or yesterday. Amen. I saw the post today, and I assume it's very recent. But what a joy that was for me to think, gosh, we had that pastor right here on our stage, and he was sharing with us, and it's almost like we can become part of other people's ministries just by sharing. So, each of us.
And it isn't just sharing, because you've prayed online or during the programming, and we've prayed for people. Now, I lost a very dear friend to cancer this morning, and those things are hard to deal with, but PJNet is truly a family, because we rally together and pray for each other when we know somebody's going through a struggle. And it's nice for you to share the joys whenever another soul has been brought into the kingdom. So yeah. Appreciate that.
It's great. And I love reading. I mean, we even see prayers in the chat room. People will type out the prayer and put it in the chat room. I just love what we do here. So, all right, well, folks, hopefully the rain will subside a little bit. It hasn't been like this very long. It just did this for this program, I guess. But Ben comes our way every month, and of course I say that he comes on stage, okay, every month, but he is constantly in our chat room. And I see that Dell is ready to join us now, so we'll wrap it up. And folks, Ben, thank you for making yourself available to us and sharing with us, and we look forward to chatting again next month. And folks, we're going to wrap it up by asking you two important questions. I forgot to kind of dismiss Ben here. Hold on. Going on that you all cannot see. Ask you two questions to challenge yourself. First, what is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And the next question is related to that. So when was that? Folks, if we're going to make a difference in the world, we're going to need to be bold. I hope none of us will be satisfied with our answer to either of those two questions.